Hey, everybody, welcome to Declassified Live on this Friday morning. I'm going to be monitoring, the stream today to make sure we have a decent connection. Yesterday was absolutely horrible. Good morning, Tammy. How are you? Yesterday was absolutely horrible. So far, so good. Let's see if YouTube continues to cooperate with us. Yeah, I've got my Gatorade and I've got my Superman mug. All right, a lot to talk about today. I want to talk to you guys about two things that happened yesterday. One in politics regarding special counsel Robert Mueller. The other, Whoopi Goldberg and Judge Jeanine from Fox News getting into this war on The View. And also, if you can in the comments, let me know, how's my sound coming through? Seems our stream's a little better. Let me know how my sound's coming through. If you guys can hear me 5x5, if I'm loud and clear. All right, so if you didn't see what Robert Mueller did, strap in, because this is about the worst. This is about the worst. Robert Mueller is offering limited use immunity to Tony Podesta against Paul Manafort. Good morning, Gavin. Good morning, Norman. He's offering limited use immunity to John Podesta, Hillary campaign manager's brother, against Paul Manafort. Now, what limited use immunity is, random dude says, sounds good, man. Thanks. Techman is asking why we didn't cover the Ottawa Hill rally on July 14th. I'm the U.S. guy, so you'd have to ask Ezra on his live show. He handles most of the content for Canada. I handle all the U.S. stuff. Anyway, Paul Manafort is obviously being prosecuted by Robert Mueller. Now Robert Mueller is offering limited use immunity to Tony Podesta, again, John Podesta, Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, brother. Limited use immunity, in simple terms, is that he cannot be prosecuted or charged for anything that he admits to while being questioned about things Paul Manafort did. It doesn't cover him for other things that might arise, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because I believe Mueller made it limited use immunity optically so that everybody would say, oh, it's this narrow immunity, but Mueller's never going to go after it. Mueller could find out in that investigation that Tony Podesta was the one who colluded with Russia and was a Russian asset. They will never go after him. Now, I am starting to really believe, you guys know, you watch me every day, I hate conspiracy theories. Good morning, guys. John Zeal and our buddies here. Norman Smith, we're going to get into Whoopi Goldberg in a bit. But you guys watch me, you know, we've even argued, and I love you guys, we've even argued about certain conspiracy theories. But I've always thought and taken literally the texts between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. And people on the left say to me, well, that's a conspiracy theory. Well, no, it's not. We've got their text. We now know that their testimony behind closed doors conflicted with one another. Peter Strzok said, well, I never exhibited bias in my work. But Lisa Page said, well, you know what? Those texts meant exactly what they sounded like they meant. Took them literally. And the word we became the most contentious. Out of 50,000 texts, there was that one where Strzok said, we'll stop him, about Trump being president, when Lisa Page said, essentially, I'll paraphrase, please tell me he's not, no, he can't be president, blah, blah. And Strzok said, don't worry about it, we'll stop him. Strzok testified in an open door hearing and in a closed door hearing that we'll stop him. We'll meant the American people, the electorate. Lisa Page implied in her testimony, from what we know, that no, it was what we meant. He meant we, meaning the people on the 7th floor at the FBI. Then we saw the other test where they talked about an insurance policy in Andy's office. Well, certainly starting to look like Robert Mueller was, in fact, that insurance policy. Really looking like that. I know we've got a little buffering issue here, but it seems better today. It's only coming for a few seconds at a time. Sure seems like he's that insurance policy. So what does this all mean? Well, here's the big problem I have. Why didn't, if Robert Mueller, let me play devil's advocate for a moment. Norman Smith, thank you for the donation. And by the way, you can do what Norman did. You can super chat. See that dollar sign on the bottom there? Your comment will pop out, and I'll say great things about you, like him about Norman. Norman is an outstandingly handsome and brilliant man. Thanks, Norman. Peter Strzok out. Yeah, well, Peter Strzok, I don't know what kind of hooks Strzok has, but he's definitely got a patron, a rabbi inside, looking out for him. Not a literal rabbi. It's a term we use in law enforcement. If you had somebody, a politician, somebody higher up the ranks in the department who looked out for you, helped your career along, we call it a rabbi in the NYPD. And but this whole thing is just bizarre to me. It's bizarre to me. Mueller and Rosenstein couldn't care less what America thinks. Couldn't care less. They're now, I believe, thumbing their noses at America. What this has become a pissing contest between Rod Rosenstein and Robert Mueller on one side and Donald Trump and us on the other. Normal Americans, even Canadians and our friends from the UK and Australia, people that follow American politics who understand what Robert Mueller is trying to do here. This is a joke. John Zealand says, Trump doubles down and invites Putin to the White House. Trump's the boss. He is the boss. I mean, I know how you mean that he's an in-your-face guy, but he literally is the boss. He's the president of the United States. The Constitution tasks him with engaging in foreign policy. And it does while he's the president-elect, or was the president-elect. That's why Mueller's investigation is moronic. But if Robert Mueller, again, let me play devil's advocate now, right? Let me do what the left does. If Robert Mueller was this man of integrity, this wonderful man of, unimpeachable, rock-solid man of integrity, Robert Mueller wouldn't even drive through a yellow light. If the light was blinking across the street, he would wait until that little silhouette of a person was white or green across that street. No, it's not true. Look at Mueller's entire history. Now, Representative Louis Gohmert, really like Louis. Louis put out a couple of articles on his Twitter feed talking about Mueller's background. Mueller was one of the guys at DOJ who ran Whitey Bulger and John Connolly. John Connolly serving time in prison. Whitey Bulger, notorious murderous gangster, went on the lam for 17 years, got nabbed up a few years back in Santa Monica, California after disappearing in the 1990s. So Norman Smith just said Mueller is desperate and derelict. Norman, that is an excellent, excellent description of his investigation. You chose two perfect words. He's desperate because he needed criminal charges against Trump and team, and he's derelict in his duty. He absolutely is derelict in his duty. Mueller had one job. He had one job: to investigate Russia collusion. 12-year-old financial crimes that Paul Manafort might have committed in places like Macedonia, in Cyprus, by parking money offshore there, have nothing to do with Mueller's mandate. Now, Mueller was also allowed in the extended scope memo that Rod Rosenstein generated to him that said, well, you can investigate other things that arise from your investigation. Yeah, but Mueller, if he was a man of integrity, would have handed those things, those cases on Manafort over to the DOJ. And again, I apologize, guys, for our stream issues. I'm getting all red lights over here. I ran 2 speed tests on my end as we've been doing the show here, and we have 0 issues. In fact, I'm uploading at high definition broadcast quality speeds. So I'm going to reinforce my position that there's an issue on YouTube. All right, so back to Mueller. If Mueller was this man of integrity, this insane man of integrity, Mueller would have played fair. Mueller would have gone to Paul Manafort, who he has all these charges on, and said to Manafort, hey, my investigation also nabbed up Tony Podesta. Let's start cutting a deal on some of these charges, Paul. I know you want to go to trial. Got the money, you want to go to trial. Let's start talking about how I can help you if you help me. Tony Podesta was going to testify against you. You help me, I'll help you. But he didn't go to Manafort with a deal. No, he went to members of Team Clinton with the deal. Why is it always members of Team Clinton who get immunity deals, but no one on Team Trump is ever offered an immunity deal? Mueller isn't about justice. That's why. He's not about... Norman, thanks, by the way. Tell me audio and video are good. I appreciate it. He's not about that. He's not about that at all. Mueller is about one thing: demeaning, debasing, smearing, and illegitimizing the President of the United States. That's his mission. Now the President of the United States has political cover. Trump's approval ratings are where they were before the Russia summit, because I told you yesterday, the average American doesn't care. I was talking to some viewers. I do another show in the afternoon here in the U.S. On a different network, and I was talking to some viewers. We do a call-in, and to a person, they supported my theory. They actually, a couple of them watched this show as well, and they said, yeah, we heard what you were talking about, that the average American who's going out there working and swinging a hammer doesn't care about the Russia meeting. And I thought I was going to get yelled at and told Americans do care. To a person, they said, we don't care. They said, we don't care. One guy said, I'm in a very competitive business. Tax reform and tariffs to level the playing field are helping me. I don't care who the president meets with if he keeps on helping American industry. And that's the way people feel. Nobody cares. And now the new hysteria is Trump is inviting Putin to the White House, and Director of National Intelligence Dan Coates only found out about that on television. Well, that's Dan Coates' problem. Why is Dan Coates not checking in with his boss, the President of the United States? Not the president's job to call Dan Coates. It's the Director of National Intelligence, the DNI's job, to brief the White House and say, hey, is there anything I need to know? Hey, is the president going to do anything with this Putin stuff? Let's sit down. Hey, Secretary Pompeo. Hey, National Security Advisor Bolton. Hey, Chief of Staff Kelly. What do I need to know? But clearly, the intelligence community still hates this president's guts. They hate his guts, and he's never going to get a fair shake from them. Christopher Wray over at the FBI, I think, is just... I don't think Christopher Wray is as bad of an actor as Rod Rosenstein. I don't think that. I think Christopher Wray is in way over his head. I think he was part of the swamp. I was speaking to an FBI agent the other night. I actually had dinner with the agent and his wife. They're friends of mine. And told me that agents, well, friends of a friend, they were invited to a dinner. Excuse me. And he told me that Peter Strzok is hated inside the agency. He also said that agents are very, very disappointed in James Comey because they liked him as a director. He left them alone. They said Comey was so far removed and was actually a very nice guy when he was in field offices or when they had to deal with him. And he understood that he wasn't an agent. He let the agents do what they did, and he was a politician. Now, they're no fans of Comey. They think he's embarrassed them and disgraced them. But they were just talking about his management style as director before all this happened. They said Christopher Wray is very different. He treats the FBI like a lawyer would. Sends down very specific directives that oftentimes aren't workable on the street. And this agent in a different part of the country was working on an operation alongside the DEA. And he said the DEA agents are able to operate like street cops and do their job, and new directives from Wray for the FBI are so rigid, they can't, it was nearly impossible to work with the DEA because the DEA agents were given such latitude, and Wray has the FBI in such a box. I think Wray's problem is that, number one, he was friends with Comey and he's friends with Mueller because they were all DOJ guys together, friends with Rosenstein. More importantly, he was never a street agent. And he's in cover his ass mode. So he's, every time the guy's in an interview, Christopher Wray, or before a Senate committee or a House committee, he's got this look on his face like, man, what did I get myself into? I was making a lot of money at this cushy law firm. I think he was in New Jersey or somewhere in that area, up in that region. He was probably making $1 million a year, maybe more with his bonus. Nobody knew his name. He didn't even really have to do any work because he was so senior. He had associates and junior partners doing all the work for him. He just had to sit in meetings with his DOJ resume and shake some hands and make some rain and go play golf and sit in country clubs and win business for the firm and get a really big check every 2 weeks. That's all Wray had to do. And now, FBI director thrown into the limelight, the most controversial time in FBI history. I think that Christopher Wray is just overwhelmed, and he was not the right guy for the job. I just don't think he was ready for this job at this time. The agency needed a cop. It needed a cop. Now, back to the matter at hand. So they offer Tony Podesta limited use immunity because they are hell-bent on a mission to take out Paul Manafort. I have never seen a vendetta against a suspect like I am right now with Mueller against Manafort. And this is why I always tell you guys, that QAnon nonsense, trust the plan, and Mueller's a white hat, and he's in the White House, in the corridors under the White House, meeting with Trump, and Jeff Sessions comes in a black car, and they plot ways to take Hillary down, and the plan is working. No, there's no plan. There's nothing going on behind the scenes. This Q is some guy in his mom's basement who curates news and puts theories together. This is the plan was, the plan that you're being told to trust? The plan was to take down Trump. So if you're trusting the plan, you're colluding with the other side to take down the president. That's what they want to do here. Okay? And I'm always glancing at your comments. Yeah, Kochman says FBI and DOJ need a good cop like Rudy Giuliani. Yes, but Rudy, like I always tell you, didn't want the job of Attorney General. He wanted to be Secretary of State. Baseball says Q is debunked. Q was debunked before Q ever started posting, but thank you for that. But anyway, that's why I trust the plan. If you were on the fence about these moron conspiracy theories, and John Podesta's brother getting immunity to go after Paul Manafort doesn't convince you, nothing will. Nothing will. And what I will tell you is you're going to be very, very disappointed. Very disappointed. There was never a plan. Tammy, there will never be a military tribunal. That's one of these wishful thinking things. We are not a military junta. We don't apply the Universal Code of Uniform Code of Military Justice to civilians. There won't be a military tribunal. That's never going to happen. Those are theories being floated. But unfortunately, excuse me, unfortunately or fortunately, that'll never happen because one day, hi Tammy, you're saying hi to John Zealand. One day the Democrats will be back in power, and the last thing we want is the precedent of military tribunals trying people for politics. All right, this needs to be dealt with through the appropriate channels. And what we need is our existing Department of Justice and our existing but missing Attorney General to do his job. Hey, Sub-Zero asks, are there any Brits in the house? Are there any Brits in the house? Everybody, tell me where you're from today. All right, Martin DeBeer asks a good question. Why do Brennan and Clapper still have secret clearance? Well, they actually have top secret SCI clearance, and it's customary for former heads of agencies to keep their clearances. My very good friend is a former SEAL Team 6 guy, and he keeps his top secret clearance because he still does contract work with the SEALs. He now has a company where he provides training for them, outside service training for them. So he needs a top secret clearance to be able to set up training scenarios and all based on real life missions and things they've done that are classified. So it's not uncommon. There are plenty of private citizens out there with security clearances because they work alongside the government. So it's not uncommon for guys like Brennan and Clapper to have it. The former DNI and the head of the CIA, though, they could keep it for life. The problem is that there are unhinged, blatant partisans who are using those clearances now, to subvert the sitting president of the United States. And for that reason, they should have their clearances pulled. I have no problem with former FBI directors, CIA directors, national intelligence people, military people keeping their clearances. Plenty of people coming out of the military keep their clearances because they go to work in, say, and excuse me, my voice is horrible today. They go to work in the defense industry. So if you were an Air Force pilot, you have a top secret SCI, you have the top clearances. Well, if you retire and you go to work for one of the aircraft companies building fighters or next generation bombers for the Air Force, everybody you work with is going to have a top secret security clearance because we don't want those, blueprints, those schematics getting in enemy's hands. So you're going to keep your clearance and have it alongside civilians. So in and of itself, them having clearances isn't unusual. It's what they're doing with those clearances that necessitate those clearances being pulled. And Sean Wingfield says, I can't even follow this fiasco anymore. When I tried to explain it all to my coworker, I felt like a nut job. Felt like I sounded like a nut job. And I guess you're talking Mueller and Podesta immunity. Yeah. I mean, Sean, if you and I wrote a script and we wrote this story with Mueller as a script for Hollywood, and we went to pitch a production company, they would kick us out and tell us Guys, we like science fiction, but you guys are way over the top. Nobody would ever believe this. That's how bad it is. That's how absolutely bad it is. So we're going to come back to this and do the comments, but I want to take a hard turn and talk about more unhinged ism that's on the left. Whoopi Goldberg and Judge Jeanine Pirro got into a screaming match on The View yesterday. Judge Jeanine Pirro accused the panel on The View of having Trump derangement syndrome. Well, Whoopi Goldberg flips out. They go to break. They come back. Judge Jeanine's no longer on the show. Well, now it's breaking. And I'm going to find the story that Whoopi Goldberg apparently spit on Judge Jeanine Pirro and kicked her out of the studio. This is insanity. This is insanity. Spitting on her and kicking her out of the studio. These people are crazy. The left is simply insane. They are simply insane. I'm going to see if I can find the story. That's why I'm poking around here. You've probably seen it. But I've never seen anything this. I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen anything like it. Then you've got protesters outside Maxine Waters' office supporting her, burning American flags, chanting Black Power. I mean, the world is upside down. You've got this lunatic, Ocasio-Cortez, in New York, talking about things she doesn't even understand. Sounds like a moron. And you've got moderate Democrats, like former Senator Joe Lieberman of Connecticut, saying, distance yourself, Democrats, from Ocasio-Cortez. She's bad for America. So there's now a war within the Democratic Party. And I don't have the Whoopi story. Let me see if I can find it on Drudge. And yep, I'll find it. But you saw the story, and we all saw the story. It's just sheer craziness. Sheer craziness. I mean, I don't even know what where to start. Bidding on a look. I interview Democrats. I go on other people's shows. We know our political bent, but I don't personalize this stuff. I never personalize this stuff, ever. And who said? Andrew Hahn says, Judge Jeanine beat them all. Yeah. Guy Fawkes says, Whoopi lost my respect a long time ago. Yeah, these people all did. These people all did. But I mean, they're now, I mean, these people are nuts. They're just crazy. Look, like I'm saying, I go on other people's shows. They bring me on. I do international media a lot. I'm the conservative American. But I don't personalize it. I have no problem. You're a Democrat. You're far left. We can go out and grab a drink afterward. But now we're spitting on colleagues in the industry. The whole point of doing what we do, I do television. I do my digital show here in the morning. I do television here in the States in the afternoon. And the whole point is I bring guests in the studio. I have two co-hosts on my TV show, but I bring guests. We bring guests in the studio. Some are very far left. We all shake hands. We say goodbye. We joke about it. We're like, hey, maybe we'll get a little more fiery next time. And everybody jokes, and everybody's friendly, and everybody laughs at one another. And, spitting on a colleague. I mean, they're in the same industry. They're both in television. You spit on people because you disagree with their political views, and you're so thin-skinned that you can't take the term Trump derangement syndrome. That's really what pushes you over the edge. Wow, the look on my face. The look on my face when the stream froze. Wow. If that didn't tell you how I feel about Whoopi Goldberg, I don't know what does. That summed it up right there. That was the one time I was glad the stream froze, because that look on my face, captured for a few seconds, that really summed up my feelings on Whoopi Goldberg and liberals who lose their minds. Tammy Patinsky Zanbelt says, Whoopi can't be too happy things aren't going her way. I really like Judge Jeanine. And you can bet your bottom dollar Whoopi's probably upset because viewer for viewer, Judge Jeanine's ratings are probably better. Lauren Smith says, Cortez doesn't represent the American people. She's from Venezuela. She's really not. She was born in New York, grew up in Westchester County. But she acts like she's from Venezuela. So Mexican Owen says the assault, that's assault. Obviously, the judge is right. Whoopi does suffer from Trump derangement syndrome. In New York, it is not assault. It's at the very worst. I used to lock people up for this stuff in New York and write them summonses. In New York, it might be the crime of harassment. It's a violation, like a red light or speeding ticket. It's not assault. It's not arrestable. Assault requires an act that could result in serious injury, spitting on someone. MD says, who grew up in Westchester? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, that Democratic Socialist candidate from New York in the 14th District. She grew up in Westchester. Let's see, what do we got here? Whoopi proving that Trump derangement syndrome, in fact, exists. Yeah, oh, yeah, she did. She did. See, that was the best part of that whole interview. That was the irony, right? Is that Whoopi Goldberg confirmed that which she was being accused of. It was great. Angel Chong says, Jeanine seems so pleased at triggering and exposing Whoopi's hatred and hypocrisy. Good. Check Nationalist. That's a great comment. The world is becoming like George Carlin's comedy. That is actually a brilliant observation. That was a great observation. Yeah, Judge Jeanine said, I think she got the best of them. No Mexican Owen says, $5 says if Trump gets reelected, every Democrat head will explode. I happen to think you're onto something there. Angel says, looking forward to hearing Whoopi's explanation about what happened today. Well, Whoopi did her backpedal. She came on the show. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do it. Okay. Sure you did. Sure you did. Check Nationalist said, my face is what hackers wanted us to see. And those were pro-Trump hackers. Those were conservative hackers. And I'm so happy the stream's a little better today. Yesterday was a disaster. Trump derangement syndrome is the product of deep state hypnosis on MSM. I don't know what that means, but Now, DMC asks me, John, what is your background? What do you mean? How do you mean that? I'd be happy to answer it. I just don't understand the context. Norman Smith donated another couple of bucks. Thanks, Norman. Judge J owns Whoopi's face. Now, yeah, she did own her. I'll give her that. An MD, I'd be happy to answer the question. I don't know if you mean my ethnic background, professional background in media. So just clarify it for me. I'd be happy to answer for you. Let's see. Andrew Hahn says Trump went a bit too far, but he's trying to protect his country. Interesting comment. What do you mean he went a bit too far? Let's discuss. Clarify that. Expound upon it. Let's see. Oh, DMC is asking my professional background. Not a lawyer. No, I was with the NYPD. Went into the private sector, working alongside law enforcement, and been doing media work for about 10 years. Started as an analyst commentator, then had a radio show, had a pretty successful morning show down here in Miami, and then moved over to digital and television. So now I do this show, and then I do a TV show in the afternoon here in the States. So I was always an analyst, political and law enforcement. Now it's everything. So that was my professional background. Law enforcement, private sector, media. And thanks for clarifying that. The footage should go viral, Guy Fawkes says, and show the world what an animal Whoopi is. It is going viral. And you also say, Guy, and I agree with you, there's no excuse for Whoopi Goldberg acting like that, especially on a TV show. Well, the footage of her spitting on Judge Jeanine happened after they left the set, so there were no cameras, is what the reports are telling us. Now, I haven't independently been able to confirm that, but it's being reported widely that that's what happened. But Aaron Irby says, who didn't know Whoopi Goldberg and almost every other celebrity is a raging lunatic? They dress up and play pretend for a job. Yeah, I mean, we've known Whoopi Goldberg as a far-left, kooky radical for years. Kooky radical for years. Let's see. Politics are becoming check Nationalist, you're right. He's saying politics are becoming a measuring contest, but the left wants everybody involved, so we have transgenders. Good observation. Making my head hurt a little bit, but I like it. Whoopi should try a mask and hit her guests with a bike lock. Antifa Whoopi. No, please. Don't. Whoopi was good in Sister Act, Martin DeBeer says. Wasn't that like 40 years ago? 35 years ago? Jeff Likes Apples is back with the Twinkies. Jeff, you're obsessed with Twinkies. You are absolutely obsessed with Twinkies, Mike. Let's see. If I had been Whoopi who was spat on, if it had been Whoopi who was spat on, Guy Fawkes says, the left would be going absolutely mental right now. Oh, there'd be calls for Judge Jeanine to be thrown off the air. The campaign would have already started to harass Judge Jeanine's sponsors to bankrupt her show. You're 100% right. You're 100% right. Let's see if I missed any comments here. Let's go back. Wow, you guys are good today with the comments. Can't stand the view, and I can't figure out why Meghan McCain is on, Gail Kochman says. Well, they needed a conservative, but Meghan McCain was, I guess the only one willing, and she was the only acceptable conservative. Tammy says Hillary used her security clearance in New Zealand a few months ago. She shouldn't have it. Uses Five Eyes to circumvent logs. Well, again, Tammy, don't get too a little conspiratorial. I think you're getting info from some bad sources. Hillary can't access foreign intelligence services. She might be able to ask for favors from friends, but as a rule, a former government official doesn't have official access. And even if she did, she could only feed information. So Hillary's wings are clipped. I think Hillary is trying to be president again, and it's gonna fail miserably like it did the first time. Let's see. She is hardcore. I assume you mean Judge Jeanine. Jeff Likes Apple says Whoopi is far left. It means she respects no one, including herself. That tends to be the thing with leftists, right? Tends to be the thing with them. They really tend to embarrass themselves more than anybody else. Look, Dace Volt is saying she said she wasn't an ideologue. I don't care about people being ideologues. It's fine. Look, I come on air, and the reason I don't consider myself a journalist is I'm not objective. I'm honest. But I don't look at Robert Mueller's investigation and this play with Tony Podesta and say, well, there might be a good reason for him to do it, because I don't believe there is. I simply don't believe there is a good reason for him to do what he's doing with Tony Podesta. I think Robert Mueller is a dishonest actor. But that's my conservative opinion. I'm still going to give you the facts of the case and say, well, it is limited use immunity, which means it doesn't cover him for everything. Now, as a journalist, I could report that and say, and Mueller is doing that because he might want to charge Tony Podesta down the road. Well, that's what I should say. But as a conservative opinion commentator, I say, Mueller's doing that for optics, so that the specter of blanket immunity doesn't taint Mueller too much. And he can just choose not, and so can DOJ, not to prosecute Tony Podesta down the road. So that's where my opinion commentary comes in. But I'm always going to give you the other option, right? I'm going to say, well, he could avoid, he could do this and charge him down the road, but here's my opinion. Because I believe Mueller is dishonest and not a man of integrity. If I were a journalist, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't give my opinion on Mueller's integrity. But that's why I don't consider myself a journalist. I'm an opinion commentator on the right. So it's okay to be an ideologue. It's okay. Just disclose it. CNN doesn't disclose it. Martin DeBeer says, what's my take on the opinion that a lot of these so-called lawmakers and elites are entrapped in some bad stuff, hence the obvious craziness? Yeah, I think there's something to that. I think the intelligence and federal law enforcement community has dirt on every American. And if you go against them, you tend to be, risk of smear. John Zealand says, Jack Posobiec tweeted, I'm starting to get the impression that the DOJ might be somewhat biased. Jack is a really good friend of mine. Jack is an awesome guy. And Jack is in D.C., and he gets a bad rap for a lot of things. But Jack is good at what he does. And Jack's sources are really, really strong. He and I speak pretty much daily. I spoke to him yesterday about some of the goings on at DOJ, and he and I are just perplexed at what we're seeing. So, Jack is, I tend to, share Jack's material quite frequently. Plus, personally, he's a good friend of mine. I really like the guy, and I think he's onto something with that. Peter Heinrich says, hi, John. Do you really think that Hillary will run again for POTUS in 2020? Absolutely. Unless the Democratic Party tells her to slow her roll and stop the nonsense and bring some fresh blood in. And by the way, it was John Zealand who tweeted the comment about Jack Posobiec. Okay, MD says Mueller is certainly a black hat, not a good person. His record, when you actually look at it, is really pretty poor. MD, did you see what Louis Gohmert was putting out about Mueller's prior record? It's, see, the Deuce Volt says Mueller should be investigated. Yeah, look, I hate special counsels. I tell you that all the time. But we need a second special counsel to investigate the first special counsel. That's how biased I believe Mueller is. Whoopi knew Judge Jeanine owned her, Angel Chong says, then tried virtue signaling to her peers and her audience. How she just hates to lose control. She couldn't handle the truth bombs. Jeanine lobbed her away. I agree. Sub-Zero says Hillary should be running from the lawn, not for president. Awesome. Norman Smith and John Zealand like my buddy Jack Posobiec. Yeah, no, Jack had a great run here at the Rebel. He's doing great over at OAN. And he just had a little baby. Beautiful, beautiful little guy. He and his wife and the family are doing great. And he's loving where he is. Hillary says, Angel Chong says, Hillary, maybe she'll run to avoid being indicted. Well, I don't think Hillary's ever going to be indicted. Hell, Tony Podesta, John Podesta's brother, is getting protected. So I don't think Hillary Clinton is ever going to be protected. Jeff Likes Apple says, you love Judge Jeanine, but what's with that pout? I don't know, but Jeff, I got a question for you. Who or what do you like better, Judge Jeanine or Twinkies? I want you to answer me. I expect to see your answer pop up here any second. And what do you guys think? What is Jeff Likes Apples? What does he like better, Judge Jeanine or Twinkies? Gavin 1130 says, was it true that Page claimed it was China who hacked the DNC? I didn't see much about it. You think it would be all over the news? Thomas O'Connor, I've been covering Podesta immunity the whole time. In short, let me go back to Gavin's question. Lisa Page said a lot of things that has the deep state very nervous. Okay, Thomas, so in short, Tony Podesta was offered immunity to testify against Paul Manafort, limited use immunity, which means he's being given immunity for things he testifies to. He can still be investigated for other things. However, I don't believe he will, and I think this further goes to show Mueller's bias, and it reinforces the theory that Mueller was that insurance policy that Peter Strzok and Lisa Page discussed in Andrew McCabe's office. Okay, let's see what else we got. Now, MD says, yes, I did, John. There's just so much. Whether talking about the Boston OC, organized crime, or the borderline insurrection. Yes, you're talking about seeing Louis Gohmert's info on Robert Mueller. Yeah. Well, Robert Mueller was one of the DOJ guys, I mentioned it earlier in the show, who was running the operation with Whitey Bulger and John Connolly. When John Connolly went rogue as an FBI agent and became more of a mobster, he's now serving prison time. Whitey Bulger, of course, in prison for the rest of his life after being on the run on the lam for 17 years. And Robert Mueller was around for all that. Now, interestingly, a lesser-known case, but also pertains to Mueller. Andrew Weissman, Mueller's number two, the guy they call the pit bull, he was the DOJ guy, one of the DOJ guys, running Greg Scarpa and Lynn DeVecchio. Greg Scarpa, they used to call him the Grim Reaper, murderous New York-based mafioso captain. Lynn DeVecchio, an FBI agent up there in the New York field office's OC, Organized Crime Bureau group. And Lynn DeVecchio never got jammed up like John Connolly did, but there was a lot of speculation that Lynn DeVecchio crossed over as well. Now, Lynn DeVecchio reached out to me a few years ago. We spoke. He wanted to sit down and give his side of the story. I then reached out to an old school New York City detective that I knew. He's passed away now. You might know who the guy is. You still see old footage of him on like the History Channel, Discovery Channel. Joe Coffey. Joe was a legend in the New York City Police Department. Was a major player in taking down organized crime. And he worked those cases. And Joe was a friend of my father's years, and I knew him. And I I spoke to Joe, back 2015 or so. And it was only about a month or two before Joe passed away. He was getting up there. He was in his late 70s or early 80s, still sharp as a tack, but, he was sick. And Joe and I had a long chat, and we talked about this case. And I said, hey, this guy's on my radio show. And DeVecchio wanted to sit with me. And my stream's getting a little worse. And DeVecchio, this guy, this former agent, wanted to sit with me and have dinner up in Tampa area. And I said, Joe, what do you think? And he said, I wouldn't go anywhere near that guy. That guy is no friend of mine, and he was no friend of law enforcement. Now, in fairness to Lynn DeVecchio, I never met with him. And it wasn't because of what Joe said. I wanted to meet with him. My schedule got busy. I never did meet with him. And as these stories become more interesting and Weissman is back in the news, I might very well reach out to DeVecchio and sit with him and go have dinner with the guy, sit with him and hear what he's got to say. Because it's a very, very interesting story. But Weissman was around all of these very, very questionable investigations. So you've got Mueller around one very questionable FBI investigation in the Boston area that went south. And you've got Weissman as number two, working on ones in New York with organized crime that went south. And sorry, the stream keeps going. And what I'll do again today is what I did yesterday. We start to have bad stream issues because we had, excuse me, guys, it's just humid out there and my allergies this time of year are terrible. Let me see. CrowdStrike was part of Mueller. Well, no, it wasn't. It wasn't, Bush Ninja. A lot of bad info on that. CrowdStrike is something totally different. I plan on doing a lot more on CrowdStrike Monday or Tuesday. So let's leave it for then. Mike Sem says you missed that whole thing. The stream is bad. What I was telling you guys is that Mueller was one of the DOJ guys handling Whitey Bulger and John Connolly. Mueller's number two, Andrew Weissman, had similar problems with an organized crime case with Lynn DeVecchio, an FBI agent who's never been convicted or charged of anything. He was investigated, suspected of being dirty, who was running a mobster in New York named Greg Scarpa. They called him the Grim Reaper. He was a mafioso captain. And so you've got Weissman, Mueller's number two, ran DeVecchio and Scarpa. You've got Mueller, who ran Bulger and Connolly. Connolly's in prison. Now, this Lynn DeVecchio, what I was telling you guys before the stream froze, and I spoke about 3 years ago, this former agent who was suspected of working too closely with organized crime, he wanted to have dinner, tell me his side of the story. I reached out to an old friend, legendary NYPD detective named Joe Coffey. You might have seen Joe on those History Channel shows, Discovery Channel shows, things like that. Joe has since passed away. He passed away a few months after I spoke with him back in 2015. But Joe said, I wouldn't sit with DeVecchio. He's dirty. However, DeVecchio's never been, that was Joe's opinion based on his history with the guy. And now that Weissman is back in the news, I didn't have a chance to meet with DeVecchio. I got busy. It had nothing to do with what Joe said. But I might very well sit down and have dinner with him and ask him about this. And guys, I'm starting to get some indicators here that the stream is going to go south. So I'm going to end a little early today. I'm going to tell you guys to have an amazing weekend. We're going to be covering CrowdStrike next week. Again, you guys have an amazing weekend. I'll be back with you live right here, 7:30 a.m. Monday morning.